Most people, when they lose a loved one, they mourn, they cry, maybe they seek justice in a courtroom. But in the year 945 AD, one woman decided that justice wasn't enough. She didn't want an apology. She didn't want a settlement. She wanted total, absolute extinction. Meet Olga of Kiev. To the church, she is a saint, equal to the apostles. To history, however, she is the architect of the most creative and cold-blooded revenge plot ever recorded. She didn't just kill her enemies. She toyed with them, tricked them, and used their own sacred traditions to wipe them off the face of the earth. If someone killed your partner and tried to steal your home, how far would you go? Would you stop at one life? Or would you burn down an entire civilization? Today, we're looking at the woman who proved that hell hath no fury is a massive understatement. This is the unbelievable story of the greatest revenge in history. Our story begins in Kievan Rus, a massive, wild territory covering parts of modern-day Ukraine and Russia. Olga was married to Prince Igor. Igor was a tough ruler, but he had one fatal flaw: greed. While collecting tribute, essentially protection money, from a tribe called the Drevlians, Igor decided the huge payment he'd already received wasn't enough. He sent his main army home and went back with a small group of guards for a second helping. The Drevlians, tired of being extorted, reached their breaking point. They captured Igor and carried out an execution so gruesome it was designed to send a message. They tied his legs to 2 birch trees that had been bent down to the ground. When they let the trees go, they snapped back to their upright position, ripping Prince Igor in half. To understand Olga's rage, you have to understand the sheer disrespect of this act. The Drevlians didn't just kill him, they treated a prince like an animal caught in a trap. In the Viking-influenced culture of the Rus, a shameful death like this was a stain on the entire family. The Drevlians thought they were smart. They figured Igor is dead. His son is too young to rule. That leaves his wife Olga. She's just a woman, we'll force her to marry our Prince Mal and we'll take over Kiev ourselves. They had no idea they had just started a war with a genius. The Drevlians sent 20 of their best men to Kiev to propose the marriage. They arrived by boat, sailing up the Dnieper River, acting like they already owned the throne. Olga met them with a cold, beautiful smile. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. Instead, she told them, "Your proposal is moving. My husband is indeed dead and I must look to the future. To show you how much I respect your bravery tomorrow, I want my people to carry you into the city in your boat. You shall be treated like kings, carried upon the shoulders of men." The Drevlians were delighted. They felt like VIPs. They spent the night drinking and boasting about how easy it was to conquer a widow. The next day, as promised, Olga's men arrived. They lifted the boat with the 20 diplomats sitting inside, dressed in their finest robes. But they weren't carrying them to a palace. They carried them to a massive, deep trench Olga had ordered her men to dig overnight in the middle of the court. The soldiers tossed the boat, and the men into the pit. Olga leaned over the edge, looking down at the terrified diplomats, and calmly asked them if they found the honor to their taste. As they began to scream and beg, she gave a simple nod. Her men began shoveling earth into the pit. She buried all 20 of them alive. That was just level 1. Olga knew that word of the burial would eventually get out, so she moved fast. She sent a message back to the Drevlian Prince Mal before he could hear the news. She claimed she was seriously considering the marriage, but she needed his most distinguished men, the governors and local lords, to escort her to their land so she could arrive in style. Prince Mal, thinking the first group was simply delayed by festivities, sent his highest-ranking officials. When this second group of elite noblemen arrived, Olga played the part of the hospitable host yet again. She told them, "You've had a long journey. You are dusty and tired. Go to the bathhouse, wash yourselves, and then we will feast and discuss the wedding." Imagine the psychological game being played here. These were the elite of the Drevlian people. They were sitting in the steam, likely discussing how they would divide Olga's wealth. They were laughing, celebrating their good fortune. Then, the sound of the heavy wooden bolt sliding into place on the outside of the door. The smell of smoke didn't come from the sauna stones, it came from the walls. Olga's soldiers had piled wood against the doors and windows and set the entire building ablaze. Olga didn't want them dead. She wanted them to have those few minutes of realization, the moment they knew they had completely underestimated the widow. She burned the entire leadership of the Drevlian tribe to ash. Level 2, complete. You'd think by now the Drevlians would notice their entire government was missing. But Olga was a master of information control. She sent a third message: "I am finally coming to your city to marry your prince. But first we must hold a funeral feast at the spot where you killed my husband, so I may weep over his grave one last time." The Drevlians, incredibly, fell for it again. They prepared a massive feast near their capital. Olga arrived with a small group of followers. She looked mournful. She acted the part of the grieving bride. She encouraged the Drevlian soldiers to drink, and drink, and drink. She waited, she watched as the wine took hold. Once 5,000 Drevlian soldiers were completely blacked out or stumbling drunk, Olga's demeanor changed. The mourning widow disappeared, replaced by the Viking queen. She gave the signal. Her small group of followers pulled out concealed swords. It wasn't a fight, it was a slaughter. 5,000 men were cut down in a single night while they were too drunk to even stand. The ground was soaked so deep with blood that it was said the grass wouldn't grow there for years. The remaining Drevlians retreated to their capital city, Iskorostan. It was a fortress. Olga brought her full army and besieged the city for a year, but she couldn't break the walls. The Drevlians were starving, but they knew if they came out they would die. So Olga switched tactics. She sent a messenger to the gates. "Look, I've killed enough of you. I'm tired of this war. Your other cities have surrendered. Just give me a small, symbolic tribute and I will pack up my army and go home." The Drevlians asked what she wanted. "Honey, furs, gold." Olga shook her head. "No, you are poor now. I will not take your livelihood. Just give me 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from every house." The people thought she had finally lost her mind, but they were relieved. They gathered the birds from under their eaves and handed them over in cages. That night, Olga gave her soldiers a bizarre and terrifying order. They tied small pieces of sulfur and cloth to the feet of every single bird with long threads. At dusk, they lit the cloths and released the birds all at once. Where do birds go when the sun sets? They go back to their nests. Thousands of flaming birds flew straight back into the thatched roofs and wooden haylofts of every single house in the city. The city didn't just catch fire, it exploded into flames simultaneously. There was no way to put out the fire because every house was burning at once. As the people fled the inferno, Olga's army was waiting at the gates. She captured the leaders, executed them, enslaved some of the survivors, and left the rest alive just to pay her taxes for the rest of their lives. The Drevlian tribe, as an independent power, ceased to exist that night. After wiping an entire culture's leadership off the map, Olga returned to Kiev. But here is the craziest part of the story. Olga eventually traveled to Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire. She met the emperor, who was so impressed by her wit and beauty that he supposedly proposed to her. Olga, ever the trickster, asked him to baptize her into Christianity first. Once he did, she looked him in the eye and said, "I cannot marry you now, for you are my godfather by faith, and that would be a sin." She outsmarted the most powerful man in the world without shedding a drop of blood. She became the first ruler of Rus to convert to Christianity, and today she is Saint Olga. It's one of the greatest ironies in human history. The woman who used bird bombs and buried people alive is now a symbol of peace and faith. But history remembers the truth. She was a woman who was pushed to the edge and decided to push back until there was nothing left of her enemies. She taught the world a lesson that still holds up 1,000 years later. Don't mistake a widow's grief for weakness, because if you do, she might just burn your world down. If you thought this revenge story was insane, hit that like button and subscribe. We cover the craziest, most unbelievable stories from history every week. What would you have done in Olga's shoes? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next one.